Good, good morning.
Good morning.
Right. Let me.
Yeah, hi, good morning.
Morning. I would have had my video on, so at least you could see the person you're talking to, at least initially. You don't need to put yours on, right? It's once you hearing me, all of you hearing me loud and clear?
Yes.
I am.
Right. Okay. So, a pleasant good morning. I know it's not the best of circumstances given everything that's going on, but I mean, as it is, I hope everyone is safe. And we just need to follow the protocols accordingly and stay safe, stay healthy. What we're going to do this morning is to basically do our orientation. Firstly, let me introduce myself. My name is Barry Sukdar. I am one of the lecturers here at CTS in the Masters of Business courses. I've been with University of Bedfordshire lecturing since the start of the program. A lot of what we have here in this orientation session is twofold. One from on my side as a lecturer, seeing where students are getting problems. And then on your side, over time, asking feedback from students as to what they would like to see more of in terms of when they start, what's the information they would like to get as they start. So this orientation session, the material in it, which is over 2 sessions, today's session, Monday's session. So today's session basically looks at, as a student in the MBA program, what are the things you need to expect? What are the things you need to do to be an effective student? What are some of the things that you're going to be encountering? What are some of the things you will need to do to prepare yourself as a student? Monday's session will be in terms of really and truly what you're going to be facing with assignments. For every module, you have 2 assignments, and what exactly would those assignments entail? And then as well, what we'd also need to look at is critical writing, critical thinking that's needed when you're writing up your assignments as well. So those are the 2 sessions that we're going to be focusing on before we actually start the modules itself. At certain points, I will let you, if you have any questions, I'll let you all basically ask those questions and I'll try and resolve them for you. All right? Now, what we'll start with okay. You're seeing the PowerPoint coming up on your screen?
Yes,
Yep.
It's pretty low resolution.
Right. Well, I'll try and.
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Right.
It's still a little blurry on my side.
Blurry on your side?
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, it's clearing up a bit now.
All right. It could be because of the internet itself. Because what has been going on is the internet has been, the load of the system has been fairly heavy recently. And to find PowerPoints like these will take a little while to load. It's better now?
Yes, it is.
All right, no problem. All right. So before we start, I want to start you off on this short video. It's to orient you really and truly in terms of a starting point, a motivating point as you begin the masters. This short video to start with, and then we'll take the discussion further from there.
The wisest person I ever met in my life, a 3rd grade dropout. Wisest and dropout in the same sentence is rather oxymoronic, like jumbo shrimp. Like fun run, ain't nothing fun about it. Like Microsoft Works, y'all don't hear me. I used to say like country music, but I've lived in Texas so long, I love country music now. I hunt, I fish, I have cowboy boots and cowboy, y'all, I'm a black neck redneck. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? No longer oxymoronic for me to say country music. And it's not oxymoronic for me to say third grade and dropout. That third grade dropout, the wisest person I ever met in my life, who taught me to combine knowledge and wisdom to make an impact, was my father. A simple cook. Wisest man I ever met in my life. Just a simple cook. Left school in the third grade to help out on the family farm, but just because he left school doesn't mean his education stopped. Mark Twain once said, "I've never allowed my schooling to get in the way of my education." My father taught himself how to read, taught himself how to write, decided in the midst of Jim Crowism, as America was breathing the last gasp of the Civil War, my father decided he was going to stand and be a man. Not a black man, not a brown man, not a white man, but a man. He literally challenged himself to be the best that he could all the days of his life. I have 4 degrees. My brother is a judge. We're not the smartest ones in our family. It's a third grade dropout daddy. A third grade dropout daddy who was quoting Michelangelo, saying to us, "Boys, I won't have a problem if you aim high and miss, but I'm going to have a real issue if you aim low and hit." A country mother quoting Henry Ford, saying, "If you think you can or if you think you can't, you're right." I learned that from a third grade drop. Simple lessons. Lessons like these. Son, you'd rather be an hour early than a minute late. We never knew what time it was at my house because the clocks were always ahead. My mother said for nearly 30 years my father left the house at 3:45 in the morning. One day she asked him, "Why, Daddy?" He said, "Maybe one of my boys will catch me in the act of excellence. I want to share 2 things with you." Aristotle said, "You are what you repeatedly do." Therefore, excellence ought to be a habit, not an act. Don't ever forget that. I know you're tough, but always remember to be kind. Always. Don't ever forget that. Never embarrass mama. Yeah. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. If daddy ain't happy, don't nobody care. But you know, I tell you. Next lesson. Lesson from a cook over there in the galley. Son, make sure your servant's towel is bigger than your ego. Ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. Y'all might have a relative in mind you want to send that to. Let me say it again. Ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. Pride is the burden of a foolish person. John Wooden coached basketball at UCLA for a living, but his calling was to impact people. And with all those national championships, guess what he was found doing in the middle of the week? Going into the cupboard, grabbing a broom, and sweeping his own gym floor. You want to make an impact? Find your broom. Every day of your life, you find your broom. You grow your influence that way. That way you're attracting people so that you can impact them. Final lesson. Son, if you're going to do a job, do it right. I've always been told how average I can be. Always been criticized about being average. But I want to tell you something. I stand here before you, before all of these people, not listening to those words, but telling myself every single day to shoot for the stars, to be the best that I can be. Good enough isn't good enough if it can be better, and better isn't good enough if it can be best. Let me close with a very personal story that I think will bring all this into focus. Wisdom will come to you in the unlikeliest of sources, a lot of times through failure. When you hit rock bottom, remember this. While you're struggling, rock bottom can also be a great foundation on which to build and on which to grow. I'm not worried that you'll be successful. I'm worried that you won't fail from time to time. The person that gets up off the canvas and keeps growing, that's the person that will continue to grow their influence. Back in the 70s, to help me make this point, let me introduce you to someone. I met the finest woman I'd ever met in my life. Back in my day, we'd have called her a brick house. This woman was the finest woman I'd ever seen in my life. There's just one little problem. Back then, ladies didn't like big old linemen. The Blind Side hadn't come out yet. they like quarterbacks and running backs. We're at this dance, and I find out her name is Trina Williams from Lompoc, California, and we're all dancing, and we're just excited. And I decide in the middle of dancing with her that I would ask her for her phone number. Trina was the first one. Trina was the only woman in college who gave me her real telephone number. The next day, we walked to Baskin & Robbins ice cream parlor. My friends couldn't believe it. This has been 40 years ago, and my friends still can't believe it. We go on a second date, and a third date, and a fourth date. We drive from Chico to Vallejo so that she could meet my parents. My father meets her. My daddy, my hero, he meets her, pulls me to the side and says, "Is she psycho?" But anyway, we go together for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. By now, Trina's a senior in college. I'm still a freshman, but I'm working some things out. I'm so glad I graduated in 4 terms. Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan. So now it's time to propose. So I talked to her girlfriends, and it's California, it's in the 70s, so it has to be outside. You have to have a candle, and you have to have, you know, some chocolate. Listen, I'm from the hood. I had a bottle of Boone's Farm wine. That's what I had. She said yes. That was the key. I married the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen in my life. Y'all ever been to a wedding, and even before the wedding starts, you hear this? How in the world? And it was coming from my side of the family. We get married, we have a few children, our lives are great. One day, Trina finds a lump in her left breast. Breast cancer. 6 years after that diagnosis, me and my 2 little boys walked up to Mommy's casket. And for 2 years, my heart didn't beat. If it wasn't for my faith in God, I wouldn't be standing here today. If it wasn't for those 2 little boys, there would have been no reason for which to go on. I was completely lost. That was rock bottom. You know what sustained me? The wisdom of a 3rd grade dropout. The wisdom of a simple cook. We're at the casket. I'd never seen my dad cry. But this time I saw my dad cry. That was his daughter. Trina was his daughter, not his daughter-in-law. And I'm right behind my father, about to see her for the last time on this earth. And my father shared 3 words with me that changed my life right there at the casket. It would be the last lesson he would ever teach me. He said, "Son, just stand. You keep standing. You keep standing, no matter how rough the sea, you keep standing." And I'm not talking about just water. You keep standing. No matter what, you don't give up. And as clearly as I'm talking to you today, these were some of her last words to me. She looked me in the eye and she said, "It doesn't matter to me any longer how long I live. What matters to me most is how I live." I ask y'all one question, a question that I was asked all my life by a 3rd grade dropout. How you living? How you living? Every day ask yourself that question, how you living? Here's what a cook would suggest you to live this way. That you would not judge, that you would show up early, that you'd be kind, that you'd make sure that that servant's towel is huge and used, that if you're going to do something, you do it the right way. That cook would tell you this, that it's never wrong to do the right thing, that how you do anything is how you do everything. And in that way, you will grow your influence to make an impact. In that way, you will honor all those who have gone before you, who have invested in you. Look in those unlikeliest places for wisdom. Enhance your life every day by seeking that wisdom and asking yourself every night, how am I living? May God richly bless y'all. Thank you for having me. The wisest person I ever met in my life.
Okay, the video that I just showed you all, hopefully it gives you a starting point for as we approach this MBA. That is going to be a turning point in your life. I'll tell you this, this MBA is going to change the way you think. It is going to change the way you do and approach things. And I'm hoping that as we start this orientation, this becomes a starting point, a motivational point that you're going to take the first steps on a journey, ongoing journey, where the MBA is going to be one part of that journey. And therefore, to really and truly focus you as we go forward. As I said, the orientation is made up of 2 parts. This session today and then Monday's session. So let's begin with today's session, and as I go along, I'll let you ask your questions as we go along. One of the things you would need to look at is that the MBA itself, this is postgraduate study, and it is that it offers you either much more detailed specialization, detailed knowledge into a specific field, or if you're doing the general MBA, generally in different fields. The idea is that the knowledge that you're going to gain here can be used in a number of different ways. The thing about it is not so much so the knowledge. There is something that the university stresses on called theory and practice. It is how you take what you learn, that knowledge, and apply it to different things in your life, from a work standpoint or from a personal standpoint as well. So that idea of theory and practice is what the university stresses as its philosophy for students in terms of using the masters in a very tangible way. And therefore, this is what this postgraduate study allows you to do. It allows you to have that knowledge in particular fields. So then, from that, your learning is going to be developed. It's going to be really and truly coming from a number of sources. A lot of this work, as much as you will have 6 lecturing sessions through each module, a lot of this work is really going to come from independent study. That's to say, the study you would have to do with regards to how you interact with either your on the Brio, with the guided learning material, as well as your own research from journals, from books, etc. Independent study is a huge part of each and every part of this module. So as you go along, every module that you encounter, you will have some research to do, and therefore that's going to be part and parcel of your independent study, leading up actually to your final project, which of course will be the major one. So a lot of your studies is not really and truly focused in your hands and what it is you would be needing to do as we go along. It therefore calls for 2 very important things. One, a certain amount of self-discipline. That's to say, to get the work done. But not only that, but to manage your time, because let's face it, you all have busy schedules. You already have schedules with regards to work, your personal life, your social life, and that kind of thing. And therefore, you're committed to certain things. This MBA is going to now add to that. And therefore, 2 things that you would need to really and truly focus on is 1, time, how you're going to get the required time to get your studies done, and to ensure that you are able to do that in the time that you set. So that now becomes part and parcel of what it is you need to do. I'll say this though. A lot of the research, especially for when it is you have to do assignments for your modules, the research itself is going to take a lot of time. But I will also tell you this, if you manage your time wisely, then this is not impossible. It's not going to be a hard and difficult task. And I'll tell you, we have had a number of students already graduating from this MBA quite successfully. And they have schedules very much like your own, in some cases even more hectic than your own. And they have gone through and basically gotten through this whole master's. You're not going to be any different. The master's, let me not, give you the fluff on it. It is a lot of work that you have work to do. But if you really and truly manage your time and manage how the work is done, you're not going to have an issue with it. It will require some self-discipline. It would require that you manage your time wisely. So that's something. So there is that idea of a lot of self-motivation and commitment can come from you, supported by the CTS team in terms of the lecturer, program manager, etc. So the material for this master's, as much as you have guided material on Brio, a lot of the material, especially so for your assignments, is going to come from research. So then you will have to basically get this research from outside. And Monday, when we have our next session, I'll go into a lot more detail as to where that information can be found and what it is we actually do in terms of searching and how we actually analyze that information and that kind of thing. But the idea is that you will need to source a lot of material from outside. You would find that during the classroom sessions, the module sessions, you'll find that lecturers will source some materials for you. You will have material on Brio, and of course, some will come from your independent study, especially so for your assignments. So as much as there'll be taught content, a lot of it would be on self-directed, independent study. That's to say research that you will have to do on your own. Your class session, your lecturing session will give you some guidance as to the material. What you would then need to do is to take that as a starting point and then go into much greater detail in terms of your own self-directed research. And especially so, you may have to cater that research now, depending on the assignments you have to handle as well. But that idea of self-directed study becomes an important part of your master's. So then, in order to do that, there are certain types of skills that we must now basically undertake. First and foremost, that idea of research and how we do research. As I said, research does take quite a lot of your time. It is going to take a lot of your time, but you can work smart. And part of my session on Monday is just that. What do we need to do in order to work smart? The research methodology. How do I conduct research? What do I look for? How do I analyze the information I find in that kind of thing? And more importantly, how you take that information and communicate it in terms of your assignment itself. That is going to be a set of key skills that you will need to undertake in doing this particular master's program. And then, of course, your interaction, both with your lecturers, with other students as well, because understanding network does build capacity in terms of your insights, in terms of your different viewpoints, how you're going to see things in different ways. What you will find is that different students coming with different backgrounds, different knowledge bases, different experiences. And in sharing those experiences together with that of the lecturer, it is hoped that your experience is going to be enlarged, that you're going to be able to see things in new and different ways as well. So that becomes an important part, an integral part of this whole master's program as well. So then, the workload, it is expected that you're doing a master's program and that work is going to be there and it's going to be part and parcel of what it is you're required to do. So that intensity, that workload is going to be there, and therefore you will need to manage your time and to discipline yourself as to how you're going to get that done. I would tell you this from interacting with students over time, especially so with this master's program, that one of the things that essentially you need to do is to really and truly start at the beginning. Your workload does not start when your first class starts. Actually, it starts before that. Your material on Brio is usually uploaded a week or two before your actual class starts. So from the time that material is loaded, you should be looking at going through that material in preparation for your first class. I would always advise you before you come into a class that you basically go through material so that when the lecturer goes through the stuff, it's not that you're hearing it for the first time, but rather it would reinforce what you're learning. It rather would reinforce what has been done in the class session. It may clarify certain things that you may have questions about. The idea it builds, it gives you a foundation for your learning. As opposed to, if you don't come into the class with anything, then most likely than not, you're going to leave the class with a whole lot of questions. So really and truly, to understand the material, to get a handle on the material very early on, I would always suggest that you get into Brio before your first class. Two things you should always be looking at. One is the assignment, if it's posted. get an idea of what the assignment is, so you get a sense of what you're working towards, at least in the first 3 weeks or so. And you would also need now to interact with the material to get an idea of what topics you're going to be covering. So therefore, when you're going to be going to the classroom, you'll be prepared accordingly. As I said, the material doesn't come from one book or books. It is going to come from a number of different sources. So you're going to get things like PowerPoints, PDF, book chapters, YouTube videos. A number of different materials is going to really and truly be the source we require for this. So that the whole idea in a master's program, what you as a student want to get is the different viewpoints on a topic. You want to get as much as possible how different people see this thing, so that you yourself can not only see the different viewpoints, but could come to your own conclusions as well. The master's program requires you to be critical in terms of your thinking, critical in terms of your writing. And you can only do that if you do the research to see those different viewpoints, and for you to be able to assimilate it and to come up with your own insights as to how you see this thing working, right? So that becomes critical in terms of you and how you would do your research as well. So that the idea is that all this material is not going to come from one source. It's going to come from a number of sources. It's going to come from Brio. It's going to come from the lecturer. It is going to come from your own research as well. In terms of your tutorials, and as I said this before, since a lot of this learning is basically you guide as the student, basically independently, really and truly guiding yourself in terms of having that discipline to do the work before you come in class, which is an essential part of it. Being able to do the research that's needed for your assignment. You have to understand that as you get into your classes, it's always important that you prepare yourself. And therefore, basically, as part and parcel of your learning, you should always come into the session either by reading the material on Brio or doing additional research to clarify things. So going into YouTube, for example, pulling up material for you to basically understand what we require here. So the important point is that every time you come to a class, you should at least be prepared in terms of what's going to be covered in that class. Your lecturers would usually give you a sense of what is covered, and get an idea of what material you need to cover as well. Right? Now, the class sessions are made up of individual lecturers, but you would find from time to time lecturers themselves will give you either group projects within the class itself. They will have sessions within the class, basically to be able to prepare you in a better way, to give you insights, to share information, to make presentations as part of the module itself. In some cases, you will have, depending on the module, it's not only written assignments, you may have group presentations to make, so that you may find that in certain modules, you'll be working together as a group in order to do those presentations as an actual assignment. So this is part and parcel of some of your modules that you will need to work with others, and therefore you'll need to collaborate with students other students from time to time. So, 2 important things there. So, given what we have done so far, there are 2 crucial points that we need to consider. One is that a lot of this really and truly is going to be your work, guided by you in terms of how you time yourself and the amount of work that you do in preparation for your assignments, in preparation for classes. It is calling for you to do a lot of independent learning, in the sense that you will have to do a lot of research based on what was done in class and in preparation for your assignments as well. And secondly, the idea of critical skills that's required for this course. So for example, what some of the things we need to understand is that research skills, for example, how do we go about doing research? And when I find the information, how do I actually put down this information in a form of fashion that the examiner requires for the MBA? So all of this stuff in terms of critical skills is what we're going to handle on Monday's session as well. Importantly, what you're going to always have, or you'll always hear lecturers saying, you'll hear me saying it ever so often, is this idea of what we call theory and practice. University, that's the University of Bedfordshire, really and truly, their philosophy is theory and practice in the sense that when you learn from the modules, when you learn the material from the modules, it's not just to learn the material, but to actually apply the material. There are three critical skills that you will have to now develop in terms of doing that. Yes, having the knowledge is important, but more importantly, being able to apply it and evaluate it, where critically you need to be at the master's level. This is something I would actually go through with you, and I'll guide you on this, because I would tell you, coming into the system, a lot of this writing would not have been done before, and therefore we need to prepare you as to how it is we're actually going to get that writing done. So hence the second session, and really and truly setting a scenario as to, and giving you a foundation as to how you do research, and more importantly, how you take that research and critically write and prepare for your assignments as well. So the idea of knowledge, understanding, and more importantly, its application is very crucial to this master's program as well. The idea of, from all of this, the idea of practical professional skills, employment skills. So the idea of being data-driven, really and truly based on a number of data sets, the idea of being able to get that sense of where you are at this point, given what the data tells you, and really and truly problem solving and coming up with certain decisions. Those complex issues and how you basically problem solve them creatively is going to be something, is going to be a skill not only that you're going to be encountering here, but it's something that you could actually use in your workplace. As I said before, this master's, if it's nothing else, when you finish with this master's, you are it's going to change the way you think about things. And I think it's one of the most important points with this, because if you start thinking, reorienting your thinking in a particular way, it would make you much more efficient and effective in the workplace as well. So a lot of these skills you use during the program is some of the same skills you could apply to your workplace later on as well. So let us get to the tips. So the tips for success, and it boils down to these particular tips. First and foremost, these are the things that you're expected to do. These are the things that you would now need to basically be part and parcel of your practices as you go through the next 12 months or so. First and foremost, you need to plan ahead, manage your time effectively. So I would advise that you really actually get a timetable as to what needs to be done. So
Hi Barry.
yeah.
Just pause for a second. I think a couple participants, they have their mics and cameras on, so it's kind of switching between you and them. So I don't know if everybody could just do a check on their mics and cameras, please. Thanks.
Okay. What you could probably do, you could leave the camera on me for the time being, and I'll take your questions as well later as well. Just for the time being, because it will affect the audio.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, I think everyone besides you who's presenting needs to mute their mic and camera, so it won't switch, because it keeps switching between the persons, and again, it's some distorted audio. So if you are the presenter, one person should just be everybody else should have their mic and camera off, basically. Thanks.
Actually, I would tell you, it's a learning process for all of us because actually this is new to me as well. As I'm sure for some of you it's new to you as well. But given the circumstances, we're trying to make the best of it. So as we go along, I can tell you I'm learning a few things, and I suspect you all will be learning as well as we go along in terms of this new paradigm that we are now faced with. All right. So, but nevertheless, we get through this, and hopefully that we can work it out effectively, that it works to the benefit of both students and the lecturer themselves, right? That we could actually share how we'd normally, it may not be the best in terms of having that direct interaction, but nevertheless as to how we can get the material delivered in the most effective way as well, right? So it's a learning process for both the lecturers themselves and as you all, the students themselves. Some of you are very much into Zoom and have used it before, so you'll be very much familiar with it. For some of us, it is new as well. So, but coming down to the idea of really and truly, this is a synopsis of really and truly what you need to focus on. As I said, the lecturer, whichever module lecturer, your lecturer is the first line of support. And aside from the lecturer, you have your program manager, which is Mr. Ravi Johnson. So we are the frontline people. So if you have any problems, if there are any challenges, anything that really and truly basically creating a challenge for you, talk to your lecturer first and foremost, and talk to the lecturer early on rather than later on. And the idea that you could also interact with the program manager as much as possible if you have any issues as well. Right? We are all about supporting our students, and you'll find us very friendly. So as much as possible, if you have any issues, we can always deal with them early on and basically try to resolve them. We are here to support and help as well as guide. Now, in saying that, these tips for success would have been, as I said before, developed over time by looking at what students were doing, looking at the things that worked, things that did not work, looking on from the lecturer side, what students need to do, how could we really and truly accommodate students as well. So these tips basically came as a reason. It's twofold. One from my side as to what I would have seen with students, but also what students would have encountered as they went along and the feedback they would have given to me. I could tell you this, one of the crucial things, one of the crucial success we already know that some of you have very tough schedules between work, your family life, your social life. It's already tough as it is, and now you have a master's added to that. Work is going to become very crucial because you don't want to stress and burden yourself with things coming up last minute. My advice here is one, to create a schedule and most importantly, stick to it. But importantly, to get yourself into this idea that, look, there are certain things that has to be done at certain times, and give yourself the opportunity to do that by starting early rather than later. So as I told you before, we're not starting, your work should not start at the first session. The first class session, where your work should start, is from the time your material is loaded onto Brio, that you check your assignment guide, see what your assignment, that first assignment is about, see what the material is, and start interacting with that material so you're prepared for your classes as you go along, right? That is going to give you a heads up. It's going to give you a starting point, an early starting point, so that you handle a little as you go, a little every day as you go along, instead of letting it pile up closer to when your assignment is due. I would tell you this, from what I've seen with students, and given this master's, it is difficult to leave things last minute. For one thing, you're not going to get your best work when you do stuff last minute. Two, the stress on you is going to be a huge amount of stress. And I've seen students crack under pressure. I've seen students literally get sick. I've seen them stressed. And I really and truly, that's something I really and truly want students to avoid. And one of the main ways you can do that is by doing a little at a time from the very beginning instead of letting it pile up. So create a schedule for yourself and try and stick to that schedule as much as possible. Sometimes all it requires is saying, okay, I need to get 2 journals, read through 2 journals tonight, and just do that. Small amounts, but building a long way in terms of going to meeting your assignment deadlines, right? The second thing, as Trinidadians, we often do is, it's a cultural thing as well, of waiting last minute, procrastinating. Do not leave your assignments on the last week, on the last few days. It should be that your assignment is a culmination of your sessions as you go along. So understand the research for your assignment should be going along as your classes go along. What you would typically find is that you have 3 weekend classes, either Saturday or Sunday. You would have 3 sessions. Then the Friday following those 3 sessions, you will have your first assignment due. Then you will have 3 class sessions again, weekend sessions, and the Friday following is where your second assignment is due. So you have I wouldn't say you have 3 weeks, don't get me wrong, because your lecturers will ask you for drafts probably the week before you're due. So that 3rd weekend is when lecturers would ask for your drafts, sometimes a little before that, and therefore that's the deadline you'll be working with. You would have to ensure that you time your research and you time what it is you're doing to ensure that you could hand in a draft at that point in time. That should be your deadline. So think about your deadline as not being when you hand in your assignment officially to UB. Your first deadline should really be when you need to send a draft to your lecturer, and then work backwards in terms of how you're going to get that done, right? So that's one good way of putting things in place to ensure that you get your work done. But nevertheless, avoid the last minute. Last minute on this MBA is not going to work quite well at all. It puts you under, as a student, under a lot of pressure, right? Not to mention, there's the idea that you will not be able to finish, or it may not be your best work, in which case we don't want to end up doing a referral because you didn't pass the course. All right. Now, as I said, make sure that from the time your material embryo is loaded, make sure that you could deal with that material first and foremost. So you start going through your material, right? And you can do further research from there. There's going to be quite a lot of material embryo. That's your starting point. Nothing is stopping you from researching and doing your stuff on your own, given what you know the topic is. Again, long hours, long research hours. The science proves it quite well. There's a lot of research. Do not try or attempt to work for 3, 4, 5 hours. Typically 40, 45 minutes tops. Each session you sit down and you take breaks in between. Working nonstop affects your health. It basically demotivates you. Not to mention it, at a certain point, things are shut down. You're not going to be taking in any information. So my advice is do it in short bursts, 40, 45 minutes, sometimes even shorter than that. 40, 45 minutes, take a break before you come back to it, right? That's to ensure that you're always focused and therefore much more likely to take in the material than if it is you're going for long, long periods of time, all right? We don't want to make this master's a burden to you, and therefore that's one good way of handling it, by taking material in short bursts. Now, as I said before, all of us basically have a schedule, in some cases much tougher than others, in the sense of your work, your domestic life, your home life, your social life, all the different things that basically go into living. So then understand, as much as you have the masters coming in, the masters should not be end all where you focus on the masters and nothing else. You do need the time to socialize. You do need time for your friends, your family. You need time for yourself to just unwind. And therefore that should be checked as part and parcel of how you manage time as well. So the idea is there must be a balance, a management of time between your studies, between work, between home, and between enjoyment for yourself as well. The idea of that need for interaction, that need to basically unwind before you come back to the work again. Critically, you have divide your time on the master's program into long-term, medium-term, short-term goals. So to give you an example, your long-term goal, of course, is to complete the master's program. Your medium-term goals may be from module to module. So, okay, I'm going to complete this module in, say, 6 weeks' time. But let me say the short-term goals is what becomes extremely crucial here. You should be setting goals for yourself in terms of days, in terms of weeks, as to what it is you want to do. And I would say, put down this in a place where you can actually see it. Put it down, write it down, type it. Put it in a place where you can see it, where you can say, okay, from week 1, if you have to break it down by days, what I need to do day 1, day 2, day 3, and be specific. So if, for example, day 3, read up on this topic or research this topic, or in say week 2, read up 3 journals, for example, be very specific on it. Set those short-term goals, because your most immediate short-term goal will be completion of not only your work for class, but the idea of doing your research towards your assignment as well. Put it down somewhere where you can see it so that it stays with you all the time, and therefore it helps you to really and truly focus and probably hopefully to get it done as well. Those goals in terms of short-term, medium-term, longer-term goals is important as we go along as well. Put it down on paper, put it down somewhere where you can see them, so you're always focused on it, and therefore it will really and truly guide your efforts in terms of ensuring that you do what it is you need to do. So, as I said before, if you need advice, if you're encountering challenges, if you're encountering problems, we are here to help. Your first line should be your lecturer, your module lecturer, and you'll find that they're quite willing to help you as we go along. It's an essential part of your learning, and therefore, if you're having any problems, talk to your lecturer. If you have any problems with regards to writing assignments, how you approach your assignments, you can ask myself. And then, of course, our program manager, which is Mr. Johnson, you can contact him as well. The idea is that we are here to help. And as much as possible, if you have any problems, if you find yourself with any challenges, talk to us, and talk to us early. That way we can probably put things in place to help you sooner rather than later, right? You'd find us very friendly and open. We are here. We have prided ourselves on really and truly supporting students, and you'll find that we're very open in that regard. So if you're having any problems or challenges as you go along, feel free to talk to us. So after the session, there are two, as I said, the next session is on Monday, and there are two things that I'm going to be dealing with on Monday. Firstly, preparation for writing your assignments, what it is you need to cover in the assignment itself. I'm going to break it down for you. And secondly, how we do critical writing for assignments, the type of writing that's actually required for your assignments as well. Those are the two things that I'll be covering on Monday's session. All right, I have also attached on this particular PowerPoint, which you will get, right? This will be sent to you all. On this PowerPoint, I've attached my contact information. If you have any questions, queries, anything like that, any way I could help with this, right? Any further questions? I would take your questions as well now, but anything that basically you would like to find out later on, I have my phone contact here. You can WhatsApp me, call me, or you have my email contact as well, all right? Okay, so let me open up for any questions. Just say your name and any questions.
Good morning.
Good morning there.
Barry, my concern is group projects with this current climate of coronavirus.
Uh-huh.
Say something on that, please.
Well, I would tell you this, the same way, what you have to do is probably within your group, you can either set up WhatsApp chat. I know from experience, when we have group projects, WhatsApp becomes really important in this. You can understand.
Already, they could use them. And in Spanish,
What's that?
I do have proposal already for your grandmother. It's on the flash drive. Check proposal. Check clean
Well,
it proposal.
I think everybody's mics got unmuted there, so you're getting all the background noise.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Check in the flash drive and you'll see clean proposal.
All right.
Is it possible we can individually mute our mics, please, until we have a question?
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So as I said, if you have questions, you're talking about the presentations? Hello?
Gary,
Yeah.
my question was for group projects
Right.
in this current climate.
Right. What we'll have to do, because first the forming group is going to be the issue. I know once a group is formed, groups usually find a way, usually through WhatsApp or through Skype, to meet so that they could actually communicate with each other. Right. So that will have to be worked out given the logistics of it. I know that for sure. But the challenge for us would be the initial forming of the groups themselves, because we no longer in a class. So that's something we would have to look at as to how we can deal with that. The thing about it though is once we form the groups, once we know who the participants are, it's not so much so difficult to communicate using things like Skype and WhatsApp and so on. So what we'll have to do is make provisions for that. And as you get into your modules, because I think
Morning.
right, the next module that you're going to be getting into is project management. I think that's the first one that a lot of you will be getting into. So, and that will require assignment by. So we will have to get to the logistics of it, but your lecturer will deal with that with you in terms of how those groups are formed. And then once you form, then the communication can take place from there. So that will, to answer your question, that will have to be worked out as we get into the classroom setting. Right? Between your lecturer and yourself.
Hi, Barry. Sorry, we're hearing you in and out because the person on the Samsung 7 Edge is still not muted. So I'm getting parts of what you're saying.
Okay.
Not the entire thing.
They muted my side. They're not muted on their side. All right. So, hello. Right. So they're unmuted now. Right. Okay. You hearing me now, loud and clear? Hello.
Yes, we're getting you.
Right. Okay. Sorry. What I was saying is that what will happen is when you get into your first module, any module where you require a group, what will happen is between the lecturer and the students, we'll come up with a way as to how we actually going to get groups together. And once the groups are formed, we can use WhatsApp or we can use Skype or so to communicate so that people can get their projects done. That is something, and I think the university has, because the university themselves is faced with something new as well. So they will be sending guidelines as well. So we have to look and wait for those guidelines before we ourselves could be guided accordingly. Right? So I wouldn't say that we have anything. It will be guided by what the university basically presents to us. Right? But so far we haven't got any answer to that as well.
Hi, Barry.
Huh?
Hello, Barry. Are you hearing me? This is Shiri Beltwan.
Sorry.
Are you hearing me?
Okay.
Okay. Just a comment. I know that it might be a concern for people to do group projects via technology, but I did it before at a postgraduate level, and it's actually very easy with people all over the world. They put us into groups, and we used the technology available, which was Skype, WhatsApp, Zoom, and we were able to work on the projects, and nobody was physically in a location with each other. Also, I think you need to mute everybody's mic, and so when they have a question, then they unmute their own mic, because I think two persons are still unmuted.
So okay, well, I've done it in such a way that you can unmute on from your side, right? Anybody else with any other questions?
Hi, good day, Sue.
All right, good day, Candice.
Hi, with regards to what you previously said, right? How are groups usually formed, though?
Usually what would happen is that sometimes for students who have been together like before, over interaction, sometimes you may find people naturally bonding together. So like if you have previous modules before, naturally you find people coming together. So they have the starting of a group, and you may find that other people, new people may join that group. You may find as well that as people interact with each other in the classroom setting, you basically get to know each other, and therefore you can basically form your groups there. So there is, we really and truly would like it to be start from the student side, and then the lecturer will come in, and basically if people are not allocated, we'll see where there are shortfalls in groups, and therefore we can allocate people accordingly, right?
Okay, great.
But we would
Thanks for the information.
yeah, we'd usually start with what students themselves who already have groups already, or who have likely groups. We would start with that, and then we may add to that, and then in other cases where you have new students coming in, we would basically formulate groups with them. Well, of course, with their feedback as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, good morning, Barry.
Yes, Mike.
Michael James here. I just have a question again with the group size. What size typically would each group be?
Well, it depends on the project, but usually between 4 to 5. Usually 4 to 5, 5 being the maximum. 4 to 5 typically is what we have, right? For most of our projects, it's usually around 4 to 5, right? Most times for your final, for your TIP, well, for MIP, for example, I could tell you it's 5. For project management and so would be around 4, right? So typically those kinds of numbers is what you're looking at, right? So our ideal size would be around 4 to 5.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem.
Hi, Barry. This is Nikisha Sampson.
Yes, Nikisha.
My question is on the Brio site. Would we be getting a communication from them as to when the information is uploaded, when we would have access to that information?
Well, usually what happens, you have access to Brio? Hello?
Not of now, no.
All right. What happened, once you get the access, they'll send you an email to say that you do have access. You could always liaise with Ravi Johnson as well, in case you're not seeing anything or you're not getting access, but you could liaise with Ravi. But the thing about it, once they give you access, all you have to do is go up on the site. Now, typically, what they would do is load material probably a week or so before the official start of class, right? Some courses sooner, some courses would be later. So once you have access, you can simply go and check and see if the material is there, and therefore you'll get access to it. But as I said before, typically about a week or so before, they do usually load up the material, so you have access to it, and you will most likely have access to the assignment as well, at least assignment 1, right? So that, and it's very user-friendly from that standpoint as to how it can actually be used, right? Because you just have a menu at the left-hand side that you click on, and it will basically you can navigate and it goes straight to the pages that you want. But the thing about it is that you will need to get access first, And usually they will send you an email to tell you when you have access. If you're getting any problems to get access, please contact Ravi Johnson as soon as possible.
And that email would come from the University of Bedfordshire?
Yeah, because you would have been approved as a student. They're supposed to send you a letter when you have been approved as a student.
Yes, that letter came through CTS.
Right. Once that letter has been approved, right, they should also be able to give you, send you an email for access as well. But I would tell you this, if you're having any problems with regards to access to Brio, talk to Johnson as soon as possible, right?
Okay.
He usually would send an email as to the access as well. But if you're having any challenges, give him a call.
Thank you.
No problem, my dear.
Hi, Barry, could you verify how many group projects over the period of the MBA would be expected to be done?
It depends on your courses. So often I could tell you usually, now here's the thing, with what's going on with the coronavirus, and given that a lot of education now is online, the university will, of course, meet with that challenge. So what you may find happening is they may decide, instead of having group presentations, to either do an individual presentation or do a written assignment instead. So the idea is that we still have to be guided by what the university sends out, and they haven't sent out anything as yet, right? So what I'm talking about here will be based on what happened previously, because given what's going on with this pandemic, you would expect that things have changed, and therefore the university operations may have to change as well in light of that. So you may find that typically where they will have had a group project, they may replace that either with an individual or a written assignment, right? So don't be surprised if that happens. But let me say this, it really depends on the modules. So for example, I know if for those people who are doing project management, business econ, right? Those subjects basically have presentations on them. The first assignment usually is a presentation. MIP, which is compulsory to everyone, right? MIP does not have any presentation status, it's all individual assignments, but you'll be working as a group. It's individual assignments, but you'll be working together as a group for MIP, right? So offhand, I could tell you for project management, for business econ, and for MIP. MIP, however, it's not a group assignment. It's a group working together, but you will submit individual assignments, right? Everything else will be more or less individual. Sherry? Hello?
Okay, yes, thank you so much. Thank
Right?
you.
But remember what I said, things are subject to change. Given the current situation, I would think that this is something they may look at, and therefore we may have to wait until they give us guidance accordingly.
Sure, okay,
Right?
thank you.
All right, no problem.
Hi, Barry. Michael here again.
Yeah, Michael.
I'm just curious, in light of the present situation, are there going to be any classroom sessions or everything would be remotely done?
I think what happened, given our numbers, definitely we will not have classroom sessions per se. What will happen is more or less we'd use Zoom to present classes as usual, and therefore the idea that students could interact and ask questions as we go along as well. So it would be more or less similar to what we did today, except now it may be for larger numbers of people. Right? We are working out the bugs as well as to how we can do it more effectively. But the idea is that we will be delivering through Zoom more or less until further notice. Because as you would appreciate, we have been in a way mandated to close down the physical school itself. Right? So classes as of this time is terminated, at least until the 20th. We don't know exactly what they would tell us after the 20th.
All right, thanks so much for that info. Also on the submitted timetable, I saw that previous to Corona, they had classes Saturdays and Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
How would that work in terms with Zoom? We'll have it on Saturdays and Sundays as well?
Yeah, we'll set the meetings accordingly. If it is that, it may well be that we will have we may have some changes. It all depends on students and their timings. So, but all sessions are going to be recorded. So if a student can't make a session, the idea is that the recording is going to be there. May well be that we may change the timing, but you will know when your session is due way ahead of time anyhow, because you will need to get a link to access it. So that, as we go along, those things will be worked out, but we will be having sessions with Zoom, at least for the first few classes, right? But that will be worked out. So I think we more or less may hold to the same, because you'll be allocated certain days. So be it Saturday or Sunday, depending. So I think we may hold to that, because I think students would have made provisions for that time. So we will try to maintain that. If, however, depending on what our student feedback is, then we're subject to change accordingly. But it will not be on our side as such. We would basically try to facilitate students as much as possible. So I would think that that would incur that, okay, if your class schedule was for Saturday, for example, between a certain time to a certain time, that is when we'll allocate our classes for you as well.
All right, thanks so much. Just one last question before overrunning with questions.
No problem. No, it's all right. You can ask, because this is our session, so don't worry. The idea is I want you to, it is our information session as it is as well. It's orientation, but it's also information. So any questions you ask is not a problem, right? It's all about getting to know the course and stuff better anyhow, right? And that's the whole idea. So go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, man, this is my first time using Zoom, but you mentioned that the sessions will be recorded and made available. Would that be via some link email to us, or how would that be made available to us?
Most likely it would be through YouTube. So what Mr. Johnson would normally do when the sessions are recorded, it will be uploaded, and therefore you will get the link to go onto YouTube. All right, that's typically what we have done previously.
That's correct, Barry. What we'll do is, after the session is recorded, it takes a while to upload because the file is large, but we'll put it to our YouTube channel and we'll make it available to students after, so you can stream it instead of downloading a large video file.
All right, so everything else are already wrapped. So what I've said so far?
Yeah, so far so good. Just one thing to note with the group work, because you had a few questions with respect to group work. And for those of you doing project management, you would have noticed, or you may have noticed, the first assessment is a group project. But considering the circumstances, we've asked the university to consider an alternative form of assessment, preferably an individual assessment. But they haven't made a decision as yet. But as soon as they do, we let students know. But we know for a fact that even if it is group work, we may have to do it remotely as opposed to coming into a group or coming into CTS, right?
Any questions otherwise?
Hi, good morning, sir. Wanted to find out.
Terrence?
Yeah.
Don't worry, sir. Barry is fine.
Oh, okay. After today's session, there's a session on Monday. What happens after Monday?
So these are the two orientation sessions. After Monday, I think you will be scheduled for the 28th, I think.
Correct.
Right?
Which is next.
The 28th, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we will do is send you the link, the Zoom link for that session, and that's where you would basically meet the lecturer and stuff, and you'll have your first session accordingly. Right? So all the details with regards to the material, the assignments, and all of that, your lecturer will guide you accordingly from there. All right? So think about it this way. It's still a classroom session, but instead of having it in a physical classroom, we're now going to be doing it basically online, through Zoom, of course.
Perfect.
Right. So, but if you have any questions or queries concerning what we did today or what we're going to do Monday, feel free to contact me.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
No problem. Any questions otherwise? So we all understood what we said this morning. I would, any questions at all? All right, let me ask this then.
Yes, just one question. In terms of, I think I would have received a link from IBIS link. Is that related to CTS College? I don't know if Ravi might be able to answer that question.
IBIS link is usually one of the links they use for research material.
No, this is a different IBIS. This is our registration system.
Oh, okay.
So
okay, just wanted to make sure. All right.
Yeah, this is our registration system. So once you register for IBIS link, you create your password, whatever, you'll be able to view your account, look at your payments, that type of thing.
Okay, I didn't log in because I wasn't too sure. So I'll work on it this weekend. Thanks.
No problem.
Any questions otherwise? Let me just ask this though. I mean, because it is the use of the technology and we're using it for the first time and that kind of thing. Given the session, I just need to get feedback from you all. What worked for you? What you would like to see improved? That kind of thing. Because as we go further, this is what we'll be using, and we'd like to know how to fine tune it and make it work more effectively for you all. So I have open to comments, feedback from you all. Anyone?
I think this session is good in terms of, in terms of the I guess the convenience, in terms of the video conferencing. I think that's good. I think in terms of the format of the classes, I saw references to things like tutorials and so on. Is that, how is that? So in terms of the format of the classes, the lecturing aspect of it and the tutorial aspect of it, the group work aspect of it. Could you just give some more on the tutorial aspect, how that is going to work?
Well, it will work, I think, similar to what I did here this morning. What the lecturer would do is basically set up the same way we did this morning. And the lecturer would use their PowerPoint and their material, basically, and share it with you all, and do the lecture through that. And if they have any assignments to give and stuff, they'll give it to you through that. The idea is that the lecturer will deliver their material, like what I just did for my presentation. But they may use not only PowerPoints, they may use PDFs, they may use Word documents accordingly. So all these documents will be shared with you, or it could be later emailed to you so that you would have access to all the material, right? So the idea is that more or less the same format is going to be used for the lectures, because we have started to use Zoom for our CSEC programs, for some of our ABA programs and stuff, for basically all our classes, right? So it's the same way we're going to actually use it for the master's program as well, right? So the delivery would be very much the same, except it will be online rather than in a classroom setting. So the same way you normally, lecturers will normally deliver material to you, I think it's the same way that they're going to be more or less doing it, except now it's going to be online.
Okay. In reference to the I think it's the BREO, which is the Bedfordshire resource portal. In terms of the access to things like journals and reference materials and books, all that is electronic. I'm not too sure if CTS system have a on-premise library or anything like that where we would need to come in and look for material, or is it really and truly we could get everything online?
When I do the session, well, we record all the sessions as usual. So even your classroom sessions will be recorded, right? So you'll have access. If in case you miss a session, you will have access to it. But I could say this, you will have BREO material. Lecturers will usually have their material as well to add to that. And what I could tell you, when I do the session with you on Monday, I would guide you to different portals you can use to find things like journals and so on that you could use on your assignments as well, right? So I'll actually give you some portals. So like the typical ones you have is Google Scholar, but there are about 6 or 7, which will be more than enough to give you the journals you require for your assignment. So then you can get that basically online without having to pay or anything like that.
Yeah. In addition to that, was it Dennis who want to ask a question?
About?
Yeah.
In addition to that, Dennis, as students of the university, you'll have access to an online library called Emerald Insight. So once everybody is registered on Brio and you have your credentials, I'll send an email showing you how to access Emerald on site, how to log in, create your passwords, search for journals and articles and that kind of thing.
But
All right, great, thanks.
I would do some of that work on Monday as well as to what are the sites you can use to get relevant material. So I'll give you those sites and I'll guide you through that process of research as well.
Okay, thanks.
All right, no problem. Anybody else? As to, I mean, this is the first time we're looking at these things, so I want to get some feedback on you all on, you know, what you think worked well, what you think that we need to do to make it more effective as we go along.
I just think the mic and video management, that's important for everybody.
Okay. And I think I think for some of us it's the newness of the thing. I think what I noticed though is, as you were telling me that just now, everybody mute, and then when that one person wants to talk, they unmute. On my side, I would mute all, right? So I think that worked well. So I'm looking in going forward, it's something we could probably propose, because I think for some people it's new, so we're getting accustomed to it. So we will have these little hiccups now and again, but we'll get there. But I mean, Dennis, you've used it before?
I'm in IT.
All right. Oh, well, yeah, well, very much so, Dennis. So we have expertise, right? So in terms of it though, in terms of the interaction, right? So on my, what would you suggest to make it more effective? What would you suggest? Because I know.
No, I think the world, I mean, this coronavirus, this is the new way. I mean, even I'm working from home. I mean, my entire company, we basically, everybody's working from home and they're using this technology. So it's not really this is the way. This is the way of work going forward for the next couple of months. This is the way people are going to be studying and learning. So it's not really you have to learn it by force, unfortunately. So, you know, you really, and I agree, yes, there'll be the hiccups, there'll be the one or two teeth in, but I know we'll get there for everybody, because, I mean, technology should be very straightforward in terms of, you know, mic on, off, you know, how to join the meeting. So these things are pretty basic, and I think I can't see too many, I mean, from an IT standpoint, I can't see too many issues with people using technology. I mean, a lot of people have to really embrace it. We really have a choice right now.
Yeah.
Because business and education has to go on.
So we'll get there.
We get there, yes, I agree.
All right, then. Thanks very much. Anyone else? Anybody? Feedback? Okay. Well, if we have no feedback, remember the next session is carded for Monday, 5:30.
No, Barry, what I like to do is show them how to use Brio, the online portal.
All right.
So I don't know if you could allow me to share my screen, if you have that option, and I'll go through it, students.
All right.
Just to ask as well, guys, did any of you receive emails from the university with your credentials for Brio?
No, I didn't.
This is Nikisha, I didn't.
No, not
Shuri
yet, Barry.
Belfon. Yes, I received it. Shuri Belfon, I received.
Okay.
Angela Brown here, I didn't receive anything.
Craig Lamsey, yes, I received it.
Rob,
Simon Helen, no, I didn't.
make you the host, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
So wonderful. So all right, no problem. I'll send an email today showing you all how to access it. But if you can't, just hold out a little bit, because it may be that the university hasn't registered you as yet for Brio, right? But I'll just send a general email with that, and also showing you how to access the online library, which I spoke about earlier today. Good?
All right. You're on, Rob.
All right, good. Guys, you all seen my screen here by chance?
No, I'm not.
Not yet.
Not yet. All right, bear with me a little bit.
Barry would also probably have to take off his camera.
Oh, yeah, Barry could try taking off your camera. Let me see.
Yeah, that's all.
All right, so, okay, wonderful. So You all should be seeing my login screen here now.
Yes?
Yes,
Seeing it?
we're seeing it.
Okay, wonderful. So eventually when you have access to Brio, you'd have access to this online portal, and this is what the login page looks like. So ideally you'll be given a username, which is the student number on your offer letter, which each of you should have gotten already. And it would also prompt you eventually to create a password. But once you create those credentials, you could log in, and I'll log in and show you what the portal looks like now and where you could get the information. If you all have any questions while we're going through, just unmute the mic and let me know, because I can't see the chat as it is here. So when you log in, this is what the portal looks like. You'll see a number of options on the left here, which you'd hardly ever have to use. The only thing you may use is eVision, which is to access your results later on. But for now, the only thing you'd have to use is units. And the units really are the subjects that you'd be doing. So if you click on units, eventually you'd see the subjects that you all are signed up to do under the different specializations. Because I have access to all the subjects, you'd see a number of subjects listed here. So when the subjects come up, just click on whichever subject it is you have access to. We'll use business economics as an example. And the first thing that comes up is general announcements, which it would be advisable to read from time to time, because if they have any changes to assignments, assignment due dates, which we'll also remind you of, you'll see it on the announcements page. But if you look to the left, you have a number of menu options here. And we'll go through each of these or some of these. So the next thing is unit information. And the unit information really is the learning outcomes that you need to do for each of the subjects that you're undertaking. So once you click on it, it should open up a document with the learning outcomes for that subject or for that unit. All right. So you'll see things like the period of delivery, the aims and relevance, the syllabus content, and your learning outcomes, right? Which is more high level. But as you go through the document, it gives you the amount of time that is scheduled for classes, independent learning, all right? The approach to learning. And well, you could go through on your own timing, but it also gives you the assessment that you need to do, or an overview of the assessment. Everybody seeing that, right? And then you'd see the expectations and a recommended reading, which you'd need to undertake for this unit. And the recommended reading is the core textbook, which I'll send the textbook list, and I'll tell you about that in a short while. And guided reading is what you would get on the online library, which eventually you'll have access to. With respect to the recommended reading text, there is a textbook list, and I'll send it to all students. But I could tell you this, most of the students, if not all, they don't really get a textbook. I would recommend getting a textbook, but the reason why they don't get it is that they have access to the soft copy. So eventually when you start classes and you start networking with the other students in the class, you may get a textbook. We can't distribute the soft copy of the textbook for copyright reasons, right? We could get in trouble for that. So because of that, students find resourceful ways of getting the textbooks, whether or not they download it from torrents or wherever it is, all right? So, but the only thing is we can't distribute the textbook. Good? So that's the unit guide, or the unit information. The guided learning, this is like your Bible for the course, and this would entail each of the topics that you need to cover for the respective subjects that you do. So for different subjects, they may have it structured in different ways. So for example, for this, you have week 0, which is like the orientation, and week 1 or day 1, they would have the different topics that you need to cover, all right? In some cases, it may be journals and articles. Other subjects, you might actually see PowerPoint presentations that the lecturers would cover in class as well. And other topics, you might actually see videos, all right? So it all depends on the subject you're doing. The guided learning really is like this. These are the topics you need to cover. And of course, it's all tied into the assignment as well. So these topics should be related to the assignment that you need to do. Good? So if you click on one, for example, it brings up a PowerPoint presentation on whatever topic it is the lecturer has to cover at that point in time. Good. All right, so that is guided learning. And like I say, and as Barry had mentioned, prior to the start of classes, lecturers would tell you what topics they needed to research. So that when you read those topics and you come into the classroom, it's more constructive discussion around those topics as opposed to a lecturer actually teaching the topics from scratch. Good? The next thing is assessment and feedback. And this is where you'd actually see the assignment that you'd need to do. And hopefully you all should have access to this soon once you have access to Brio. But if we click on it, the first thing you'd see is the assessment that you'd need to do. So if you click on it, no, my apologies. This is the link that you have to submit the assignment on. Let's go down a little bit. All right, so the link for the actual assignment is here. If you click on it, it opens up the assignment in a Word document. And right away, you'd see what your assignment is. Good. And in this case for business economics, this was a group assignment. But whatever subject it is, you'll see whatever it is you need to do for the assignment. One thing to note as well, and somebody had asked about tutorials, especially now where you don't have that personal interaction in the classroom and you don't have the face-to-face contact. To me, that is a little bit more difficult for students to undertake the assignment because of that. And what we're asking all the lecturers to do, apart from discussing the assignment in class, they will actually document a guideline for you all on how to undertake that assignment. Now at this level, yes, that documented guideline wouldn't tell you exactly what to do, when to write, where to write it, but it gives you a basic structure for approaching the assignment and what are some of the content and theories you could cover or discuss in that assignment. All right, so once that assignment is made available by the university, we'll ask the lecturers to document that guideline for students, right? So that you could work on it. And apart from that, like I said before, they'll be discussing the assignment during the video presentations as well. Good. And eventually, once you see what the assignment is, there are links here. So once you click on the link, when that deadline date comes, this is where you browse for your assignment and upload it. Of course, we will send reminders to students advising you on the time and the date and the instructions for uploading your assignment. Good? But just note this is where you'd get the assignment from and this is where you'd submit. Apart from that, you have the reading list, the recommended readings that you'd have to do, and that of course was in the unit information form as well. And this is login access to the online resource, but I'll give you a separate link where you could access that online library. You'll see the teaching team, which is like the lecturers. And one thing, and one important thing to note is that sometimes the university would advise students to, if it is they have any questions regarding the assignment or any topics, you'd make use of a discussion forum. So you'd either see discussion forum or student voice. And basically in that discussion forum, you could post whatever questions it is you have. We will have access to it, the lecturers would have access to it, but more importantly, the university, the module leader, whoever is in charge of that unit would have access to it as well. And they would see the questions, whatever questions it is, and they would respond to it accordingly. Now, for the benefit of all students, this is public. So whatever questions are posted here, the answers, everything will be public. So the other students has the benefit of looking at the questions posted as well as the answers posted. And they encourage students to make use of this as well. This is an underutilized feature in the system, but we really want to remind students to make use of this facility to get the discussions going. Because sometimes, I'll be honest, lecturers may not have the answers to all the questions that students may have, especially when it comes to the assignment. And if it is you're not sure about anything, even if the lecturer may have explained it or not, you could post your questions here as well and make use of this forum. Good? And discussion forum, and that's it more or less for the online portal. Eventually, when you submit your assignments and you the results come out, you'd be able to go here under Grade Center. I don't have it, but at the top here, you see there's a arrow next to the login name. You'd see Grade Center, and once you click on Grade Center, you'd be able to look at your mark and the comments that you get from the markers and that type of thing. All right. Well, I'll stop sharing the screen now. Any questions with respect to the online portal? No questions?
It looks straightforward.
Yeah, it's fairly straightforward, but if anybody needs assistance in logging in or accessing it or even using it, just let me know and I'll see how best I can help you.
All right, no problem.
Patrice?
I think when it is that we go around playing with it, we'll have questions and I'll pose it to you.
Yeah, correct. Just those to go play around and submit any assignment.
no.
But other than that, you can do
No.
anything else. Charlene,
Yes.
question?
No.
Oh, Patrice? Question, Patrice? All right, I guess that's it. Let me just hand you over to Barry. Are you still there? Barry? All right, guys. Well, I guess that's it. Barry?
You hear me, Rob?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If chance have no other questions, then I look forward to Monday, 5:30.
Good, guys.
I just have one question. I came in late to the Zoom meeting, right? How would I know when it is you're recorded and uploaded so I could access it back to
I'll send you guys an email with the link so you can stream it.
All right, great. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Okay, good. All right.
All right. Thanks very much for participating this morning. Rob, if you have nothing, let me wish you all the best for your weekend, and I'll see you all on Monday.
Okay, wonderful.
Great, take care.
Take care. Thanks, Barry.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you much.
Thank you so much.